I'd like to call this meeting to order. And at this time, I'd like to give the opening to Councillor Susan Penner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last week, the Mayor mentioned that he and I have been serving on council for 10 years now. It seems hard to believe. In some ways, it seems like just yesterday that I, a green 35-year-old, began her first term. And in other ways, I have felt every one of those years and more. But what I've realized most is how much can happen in 10 years. Steinbach has changed incredibly much, and so have I. One of the biggest changes for me personally has to do with my family. The day I first got elected, my youngest child turned 1 year old, and I had a 4- and 5-year-old as well. I remember door knocking while my baby was napping and telling my kids that it was very important they behave in public. Fast forward to today, and I have an 11-year-old, a 14-year-old, and a 16-year-old, and all I have ever known is their mom being on council. And now they can actually help door knock. It has been a tremendous opportunity for them to learn about politics and about people, about making mistakes and taking heat, about digging in and letting go. And I'm so thankful this has been a part of their childhood. A significant change in our community is the sheer size. 10 years ago, if you started early enough, you could door knock the entire city. Now that is virtually impossible. 10 years ago, there was no Lexington Village or Park Hill. Southland Estates was half the size. There was no CMS and the development around it. There has also been a significant change in the number of businesses and amenities. There was no Walmart or Boston Pizza or Starbucks. There was no Bush Farm Trail or expanded library or downtown splash pad. And don't get me started on all the less visible changes, from a new water treatment plant to kilometers of new underground infrastructure. The things that are a part of our everyday lives now weren't around only 10 years ago. And then there are the ways I have changed. I realized that things that seemed so black and white before I was elected weren't quite so clear once I had the benefit of more information. I realized that sometimes the thing I perceive as the right thing to do isn't the popular thing to do. I realize that while municipal politics is often perceived as the lowest of the 3 levels of government, in some ways it is the hardest because it is closest to the people we have relationships with. Our decisions directly impact the lives of the people we live with and see every day in the community, such as neighbors, colleagues, friends, and family. As for the next 10 years, we can count on Steinbach continuing to change. This council will change, the demographics of our community will change, and the culture will change. But if the past 10 years is any indication of where the next 10 years will bring Steinbach, we have much to be thankful for and much to look forward to. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Penner. Council, we have the agenda in front of us. Looking for a motion to adopt. Councillor Hebert, second by Councillor Siemens. Any comments?
No comments.
Anything further? Okay, we'll call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Council, we have the minutes of June 1st, 2021 regular council meeting. Starts on page 1. We've all had an opportunity to review. Looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Penner, second by Councillor Hebert. Any comments?
No comments.
Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Council, is there any business arising from the minutes? Okay, seeing none. It is just a minute before 7:35, so we'll go to number 9, administration. We'll go to 9A, the accounts payable. It's in the back of the book. Looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Penner, second by Councillor Hebert. Any comments?
No comments.
Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. And we'll also take care of the financial statements ending May 31st, 2021, also in the back of the book. Looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Penner, second by Councillor Hebert. Any comments?
No comments.
Nothing further. Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, Council, it is now 7:35, so we will move to the public hearing. We'll take 6A, Rezoning By-Law 2021-74. This is referring to 107 First Street, and today we'll be looking at second and third reading. Starts on page 4 of your agenda. And Mr. Workteam, could you please introduce this file?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this rezoning bylaw 2174 for property with civic address of 107 First Street. The owner of the property is BDFM Ventures, Inc. and Focal Point Properties, Ltd. with the application for the rezoning being Kingdom Home Building, Inc. Purpose of bylaw 2174 is to rezone the subject property from RLD, residential low density, to RMD, residential medium density, with the applicant proposing to develop an 18-unit multifamily development on the site. Notices as required under the Planning Act have been issued. There is one piece of written correspondence that was received earlier this week, a copy of which was placed in Council's mail bins. Comments have also been received from Community Planning Branch in the province with no concerns noted. Insofar as the application, just in general, there have been several multifamily developments that have been initiated on this street since 2018, the projects that have been initiated have generally redeveloped previously large single-family housing lots into multifamily complexes. This particular application is similar. Recommendation from administration is that City Council give this application or this bylaw first and second reading, subject to execution of the development agreement and subject to any new information provided at the hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Ordean. Is the applicant here today? Would you wish to speak? Just take the podium, state your name and address, and then continue.
May I remove my mask for this or no?
No, you don't have to keep
Okay, no problem. Thank you. My name is Luke Weeb. I am the owner of Kingdom Home Building, Inc. Here to present an application on 107 First Street, Steinbach. I believe you all got a pamphlet as well. Good. Okay. So just a few outlines of topics here. Our vision we want to share, company track record, back lane project in Steinbach that we've already started, First Street revitalization, site plan and proposed construction, affordable luxury redefined, what that means to us, and meet our team. Our vision we want to share. We strive to create quality built, aesthetically pleasing rental units and homes with over 40 combined years of experience in real estate development and rental properties. We strive for new and improved ways to discuss business for our valued customers, ways to do business, sorry. We've built nearly 110 multifamily units since 2018. We've been very blessed to have almost a 0% vacancy rate, even through COVID, on all of our units, which is incredible. We're very fortunate. We have good people living in our properties, and they love living there. We had about 25% of our current tenants that we've moved in now, 48 of them on First Street. About 20 to 25% are from out of Steinbach. So that's super exciting for us to see that we're actually moving a few people here, not just relocating everyone within Steinbach. So that's nice. So we try to, our business model is to try to build a little bit higher quality with precision and planning. We've gained a reputation within the rental community as a premier builder, and it provides, as I mentioned, excellent tenants and residents within the workplace. We have a lot of professionals, few retirees, kind of a good mixture. Some of the improvements we've made and contributed to the city of Steinbach on First Street already. We developed a major portion of the city back lane, all at our expense, and the acquisition of the removal of 6 old homes down First Street from 47 to 71 First Street, 77 I mean. 64 beautiful new luxury rentals there, and there's 48 completed already. Approximate 1,500% increase in tax revenue just from those old 6 homes that the city of Steinbach had compared to what it will be. So that's nice. And infill housing, as you all know, it's really nice for your infrastructure in the core because you're, as a whole, you have to continue as a city to replace that. When you have older homes, they don't contribute much to that. So we feel that infill housing is something that we're actually, I enjoy it. It would be easier to just buy land outside of the city or in a new development, but this is kind of something it's dear to me. I enjoy it. The back lane project there, that capital improvement project, was a great asset to our development and also provided additional parking above and beyond what we were required. And also, it's a great asset to the city of Steinbach. Built to your requirements for your engineers, concrete, 100% at our expense, and it helps provide additional parking and reducing traffic on this new development, which is why I bring it up tonight as well. You know who we are. I won't go too much into that, but Luke and Kathy Weeb, mother, son, we develop multiple properties in this community as well as in Niverville and some surrounding communities. We look forward to doing a lot more in Steinbach in the years to come. I really like working with you guys and being part of this. Your opening, Mrs. Penner, was really fitting tonight because I actually was looking at the population of Steinbach when I was 8 years old in 1991. It was 8,216, I think. It's almost doubled. That's pretty exciting and pretty cool to be a part of, at least adding eight or 10 people to that this year. You can see on, I don't remember what page it is, but it's got the old home there that was boarded up at 61 First. That's a nice change. That's what was there only less than 2 years ago. So that's pretty cool to take, to contribute to existing infrastructure and, houses that aren't feasible to renovate or demolish to replace with a single-family home. We've also put only two-story multifamily on this street, which is a nice transition. It's no taller than a two-story house could be, and that's what I also intend to do on this other lot. So I can move on to that, but one last statement, I always like to actually live this out, that I'm honored to build properties I'd be proud to call home. That's true. If I was living in an apartment, I try to build them in such a way that I'd be proud to live there. You can see there's 3 sixplexes on this lot. That's what we're proposing. We're going to use the back lane. We would develop the back lane from the South Century 21 parking lot there to this lot, leaving a portion for the future to be developed if any other properties would. I know there's one other that wants to rezone eventually there too. There's ample parking here. It meets the bylaws. We're obviously going to do everything we need to with engineering to make sure that drainage is done properly. We have an on-site dog park, so that's really exciting. That's something we didn't do on the last development, but we did in Niverville, and it was very, very appreciated by tenants because we do allow dogs in some of our units. And another thing that's similar to our other First Street project is all of these units have private entry. And no, I didn't start that thinking of COVID, but people really like it actually. They don't have to share common hallways, so it's something that's kind of worked out to our benefit. And what else would there be that I'd want to share with you? Yeah, so you just see in the slides there, some of that's our two executive suites in our First Street building there. I never got to show you guys it, but I just kind of wanted to show you. We're proud of it, and people love living there, so that's exciting. I already mentioned the 0% vacancy rate, which is awesome, and roughly a couple dozen in total. I think it was just on this unit building alone about 20, so maybe not quite 2 dozen there. And yeah, that's about all for my presentation. Any other questions? Look forward to working with you guys, and hopefully we can make it all work.
Okay. Council, are there any questions for the developer at this time? Okay. Okay, Mr. Weeb, I think you can take your seat, and we'll see what comes up. At this time, I'd like to ask if there were any questions, comments, or objections to this plan. Okay, I'll ask one more time. Are there any comments, questions, or objections to this file? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing, open the council meeting. Council, how would you like to proceed? Council Swagstra?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll make the motion for second reading.
Okay, Council Penner, you'll be seconding. Okay, go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that it makes sense to approve second reading on this project. I think the applicant has presented quite clearly the type of project that he's building. This will be 18 units, 2 stories. As has been noted, there are a number of other properties along First Street that have been rezoned to multifamily, and this change seems to make sense. It fits within the area. It would certainly not be the only property that would have multiple units within it. And the reality is that in some of these properties, when you have a large lot and an older home on it, in order to see redevelopment happening, in order to see new buildings and the revitalization, the only way that that's economically feasible is for it to be rezoned into medium density. And so I think the application makes sense. I think it's a good project that's been proposed, and so we should move ahead with it.
Anything further?
Nothing further.
Anything further of council? Anything in closing?
No.
Okay, council, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, council, we'll go directly into third reading. Looking for a motion for third reading. Councillor Penner,
Motion to approve?
second by Councillor Hebert. Go ahead, Councillor Penner.
Nothing further to add.
Nothing further.
Okay. Then I will call for the question again. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. Council will go on to 6B. This is the bylaw 2175 zoning bylaw amendment. Starts on page 19 in your package. Mr. Workney, could you please introduce this file?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, this is a zoning bylaw amendment application under bylaw 2175. The purpose of the requested amendment is to amend table 3-1 to permit advertising signs as a conditional use within the M1 light industrial zone. Presently, advertising signs are not permitted within the M1 light industrial zone under zoning bylaw 2100. Notices as required under the Planning Act have been issued. There is no correspondence on the file. Insofar as advertising signs and their treatment presently within the city, advertising signs are permitted as a conditional use in all of the zones, including Development Reserve 1, C1, C2, C3, and C4, which is all a variety of commercial zones within the city, and also M2, which is heavy industrial. Recommendation from administration is that second and third reading can be provided to this bylaw subject to any new evidence that may be presented.
Okay, council, how would you like to proceed? Councilor Schweikster,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move for second reading.
do we have a seconder?
Mr. Mayor,
Oh, yes.
as this is a public hearing,
Hearing.
Oh,
Oh, correct, sorry.
there should be questions regarding potential.
Yeah, no, sorry. Yeah, so we'll close the council meeting, open the public hearing. Are there any questions, comments, or objections to this file?
but I don't could object.
Okay, seeing none, we will close the public hearing, open the council meeting. Councilor Schweikster, you still want to?
Yeah, I think I'll still do second. I'll still make the motion. Yeah.
Okay. Councilor Stevens? Go ahead, Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is a logical change to our zoning bylaw. If we look here, the majority of zoning categories do allow advertising signs as a conditional use, you know, the commercial areas, even the heavy industrial. And it's important to note here that we're changing it to be conditionally approved, that each time there's an application, it would still come to council. All we're doing here is we're making it so that it's possible for someone to make an application, and I think that makes sense.
Anything further, Councilor Stevens?
No, sir.
Anything further of council?
Question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
To administration through you. I was just wondering if that any third-party advertising or?
Yes, that is what the intent is. Advertising signs is the opportunity to also present third-party advertising.
Outside of that property? Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Anything further, council? Anything closing? Yeah, Council, I support this, this motion too. I think it's wise to do this because it makes the M1 zoning, light industrial zoning, fit in with all the other zonings that are there. And also, but it also gives council the condition. We can also, because it has to come as a conditional use, we still have a choice to look at it if it works on that property. So I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Council will go to the 6C. This is conditional use CU 2021-02. It's referring to 132 Industrial Road. Starts on page 26 of our agenda. At this time, I'd like to close the council meeting, open the public hearing, and Mr. Workney, could you please introduce this file?
Mr. Mayor, this particular application, conditional use, file CU-2021-02 for 132 Industrial Road. The owner of the property is 100449979 Manitoba Ltd. The applicant for the conditional use is David Breisky. Purpose of the conditional use application is twofold. Firstly, to allow an electronic messaging sign to be situated on the subject property. And secondly, to allow third-party advertising to be projected on the electronic messaging sign. As mentioned in the public notice, this is does require a conditional use in order to approve those uses. Notices as required under the Planning Act have been issued. There are no items of correspondence on file. Recommendation from administration is the council to approve the application for the placement of the sign, subject to any new evidence that may be presented at the hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Fortin. Is the applicant here today? Okay, would you like to take the podium, state your name and your address, and then continue?
Yeah, I'm Phil Rempel with Sinex Manufacturing, 850 Main Street. I'm here for Airmaster Mechanical. And I'd like to say good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. It's been a long time since I've been here, and I wish it was under even better circumstances.
Okay, go ahead, yeah.
With the conditional use, especially with the third-party advertising, when we ran the numbers, for the unit which he has, he's got several tenants in that building, but to make the numbers work, he has to be, there's lots of people with no signage. There is no pylon signs in that area. He'd like to have those people be able to advertise on there. It would help with the cost.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Council, do you have any questions for the applicant? Okay. Oh, go ahead, Councillor Singh.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, how large is this sign?
It is 9'5" by 4'8".
And two-sided?
Yes.
Okay. I guess if there's any further questions, you can take a seat. Is there anyone here with questions, comments, or objections to this file? I'll ask one more time. Is there anyone here with questions, comments, or objections to this file? Okay, seeing none, we will close the public hearing. Oh, go ahead. Yes?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, just I would like to interrupt. I did not recall seeing third reading for bylaw 2175. Just a note, as a matter of process, council should give bylaw 2175 third reading before the decision on this conditional use is dealt with.
Okay. I'm sorry, I thought I saw in my agenda what we were doing first reading on that. But, okay, we can go to, you want third reading on the?
That would be for the zoning bylaw amendment under 2175.
Okay, we'll do, we'll just recess this for a second. And, well, we have closed the public meeting, no? Well, can I just close the
This public hearing was closed, yes.
Okay, good, then we can go back to this. Okay, we'll go back to B, bylaw 175 zoning bylaw amendment. We'll go third reading. Looking for a motion for third reading. Councillor Swagstra, second by Councillor Hebert. Any comments? Anything further? Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried, okay? Okay, now we're back to 6C on the conditional use CU 2021-02. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Penner?
Motion to approve?
By Councillor Penner. Go ahead, Councillor Penner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Advertising is an important part of any business's business plan, and we want our businesses to do well, so we need to allow them creative ways to advertise. And I think this is a really good solution for that area in terms of, I guess, being efficient, not having too much signage there in the area, but having this one sign, being able to promote numerous businesses. So that is why I'm making the motion.
Anything further?
Nothing further.
Any further, council? Anything in closing?
Nothing further.
Okay. We'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, council, we'll move down to, we have a delegation today. 7A, this is landmark planning and design. This is Donovan Toews. Read the RM of Ritchot water supply. It's on page 35. There's an addition to our package. Okay, Mr. Toews, thank you for coming tonight, and the floor is yours.
Great, thank you very much. I'm Donovan Toews with Landmark Planning and Design. Thank you. That's looks handy. I've got a short presentation to provide to council. It's just for information. We're not looking for any decision or support of any nature. It has to do with the arm of Ritchot water supply. Can you hear me all right through the mask?
Yep.
This presentation normally is about 30 minutes, so my quick version is 15 minutes. I understand I have about 8 to 10 minutes, so I'll make sure that I give you the extra shortened version. You'll have the package of materials for yourself if any councillor wishes to go into it in any more detail for some evening reading, perhaps. And okay, I control this.
You just pointed backwards.
Oh, this way? Which? Oh, right there. I can just tell you next slide if that's okay. Probably going to go 6 times forward. Awesome, thank you. So I will end up skipping a number of slides. But in short, RM Ritchot is looking for a long-term sustainable water supply for their RM, as many RMs or cities or towns are doing. Planning for the future means looking for additional water supply needs for the decades, not just for the immediate future. We're working with Friesen Drillers, the RM, of course, and then the Manitoba Water Services Board. They're the ones who often come to the party with the bag of money, as it were, for water projects, and they're interested in both municipal and regional water supplies. A new well or additional water supply request will require amending the existing water rights license. Again, water in our province is provincially regulated, as in every province. It's a provincial asset. There's often municipalities sometimes feel that the water within their boundaries is their water, but of course it's a provincial asset, and they're therefore regulated provincially. So this project is no different. We would have to request permission from the province. The next 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 slides all tell the story that the arm of Ritchot is growing. Much like the city of Steinbach, it's growing, and a reliable water supply is really important, as you may appreciate, for ensuring that growth can be sustained. And also important to note, similar to many municipalities, it's not a matter of overconsumption. They are working to conserve water, and that's a big part of their planning as well. But even with conservation, again, as you may appreciate, further supply is required. So I'll skip forward to, or were you handling it, or? Okay, thanks. Could you move forward to slide 9, please? Okay. Isn't that interesting? Mine's a little bit different. Back one. Yeah, so that's perfect right there. Is the RM has 2 well fields. Those are indicated by those big blue arrows pointing at very small blue dots. The more westerly or left-hand most is the PR 305 well field, and then the one that's further to the east is called the Randolph Road well field. The Randolph Road well field has an interesting story which gets told in subsequent slides. Essentially, though, for the time being, water is piped from those wells in a typical fashion throughout the RM. The next slide is of detail that we won't cover. It just shows what is actually at those 2 sites. And then the next slide talks about the study area. So rather than following those bullets, I'll just indicate that we've been working together with Freeze and Drillers on a number of water projects over the past 5, 6, 7 years. And in every case, a lot of research is carried out. I've been in front of council previously on a different project for the East Region Water Co-op project, which is a mid to longer term effort to make sure that there's supply for everybody regionally. And even in that presentation, I'm talking about the hydrogeology, water under the ground and how it works. And in order to make sure that it does work, a lot of study is required in terms of testing, in terms of understanding and explaining the hydrogeology, how the water is actually functioning under the ground. So for this pursuit for the arm of Ritchot, it's no different. We'll undertake a number of studies and tests that will involve lots of people and lots of science. How's my time? Okay, thank you. The next couple of slides are interesting for those of you who are interested in what's under the ground. When we talk about aquifers, often, like myself, I'm not a hydrogeologist, I'm a planner, but I thought, an aquifer was a basin under the ground in every case. And there are those kinds of aquifers. That is not the case here. All the way from the US border up to north of Lake Winnipeg, the aquifers are in layers. They're not in basins, they're in layers. And there's a subsequent slide that shows those layers. And in those layers, the upper layer is called the carbonate aquifer. It's basically, if you can imagine, thank you, a pile of bricks that stretches from the US border, limestone blocks under the ground, all the way to north of Lake Winnipeg. And the joints, the cracks, the fissures in that pile is where the water is. So it's all the way throughout that layer. And this drawing shows that at the lower level, it's called the sandstone layer. So that is essentially conglomerated sand. And as you can imagine, sand in a jar can also be full of water. So you have water in both of those layers. The preceding slide showed that as we go westerly in those layers, the water's more saline. As you get to the Red River, it gets more saline. As you go east, it's fresher. And that boundary that's what those yellow and green lines, one for the upper layer, one for the lower layer, that quite simply, as you go east, it gets fresher. And that's pretty important to know for the region, that, everybody who's looking for fresh water is tending to move east. If you could go one ahead again on this one, I wanted to point one thing out on the preceding slide. That Sandylands Glacial Fluvial Complex, it's that tan colored blob towards the right. This you have to imagine yourself, you're in the ground and you're looking towards the Hudson Bay up to the north. So you see the Red River at the far left of the drawing. Ontario border would be at the far right of the drawing. This Sandylands Glacial Fluvial Complex, which is a mouthful, is very important because it's sand, and as you can appreciate, water moves through sand quite easily. And in the spring melts, and in the rains, it goes through there, and what does it do? It recharges, it fills and feeds, rather, the carbonate aquifer and the sandstone aquifer. Those 4 blue arrows, you might imagine that's like a river flowing. It's not like a river flowing, water is migrating. It's moving quite slowly at a pace of meters per year as it goes from east to west. So it's a very stable environment, and it's very predictable. The next slide starts to talk about the Randolph well field and why it was originally built. Anyone who's in agriculture knows that you need to drain land to farm it, and that this southeast quadrant or corner of the province has canals. The next slide, we added a little version of a canal. There was a problem when that canal was dug, that the pressure from the aquifer was causing the walls of the canal to blow out, and water was continually coming in there. So someone came up with a neat engineering idea to drill 2 wells beside the canal to relieve the pressure, to lower the pressure, so the canal wouldn't blow out every time. The water that was taken from those wells was just sent down the ditch and made its way to Hudson Bay until someone said, we should really use this water. And that's what Ritchot did, is they got a license to use that flowing well. Over time, with use, not in an emergency way or even urgent way, but that water pressure has lowered. And so where that water was flowing naturally, like some might call that an artesian well, but it was just flowing, it's not flowing. Still lots of water, but not flowing. So one of the solutions for Ritchot right now is to simply put a pump in that well and make use of that supply using a pump rather than the flow. That said, slide 7 with the yellow circle on it. When we do these water projects, we try and look regionally. We look at a distance, so it's not to say if we look for a water supply, like say near Niverville or closer to Ritchot, that we would anticipate any effect over near Steinbach, for example. But it makes sense to communicate so councils understand what we're doing, and the rumor mills don't get out there about something that's incorrect. And also, it's courteous. And we want to go to a point where we can safely say that, existing wells and existing supplies won't be harmed by this new supply. And that is a fundamental rule. It's first in right here in Canada, in Manitoba, that if there's an existing supply, that I can't take, drill a well and, affect your well. So that's an assurance that we stand behind. Lots of people would be interested in these projects, as you can imagine, so this is just a list of all the folks that we will speak to, your council today, and to every other council in that yellow area, but many others, farmers, landowners, emergency services. When you start to think about this, you start to realize how many people are interested in water, because we all require it, and ideally we would share it, and in fact we must share it, because it's a supply that is meant to be shared. The project process is lengthy. I won't go through all the nice colors on this presentation here, on this slide, but the green boxes are essentially our homework. We have to apply for permits, we have to conduct a drilling program, we have to test the wells. The hydrogeologists have to understand the local effects and the far-reaching effects regionally, and then they'll put that all together in a report. Then we get to that first yellow circle, which is a decision. What does the science say? What are the results of the testing and the research? If it doesn't look like it can be sustained, then we can't pursue it. Then we have to think of something else. If it does, we go to the blue boxes, submit an environmental assessment report, summarize the information, and then we get to that second yellow one, is submitting a license. So up until that point, there's no project. There's no well being drilled. If a license is granted, a well would be drilled. And almost at the end here, I included this one to just reiterate, you can't just go use water in Manitoba. There is a rigorous set of rules, and this is the list: the Public Health Act, Drinking Water Safety Act, the Water Rights Act, the Drinking Water Safety Regulations, the Environment Act in 2 respects. It is highly regulated. And as a professional team, we want to make sure that we're following those regulations above and beyond, and also communicating what we're doing above and beyond. And that's why we're here at council today. Our next steps are, we're at the very beginning of this process, as this information suggests. And so we wanted to introduce this to council, so your council was aware, your constituents could be aware if they hear about work happening for a Ritchot well, that you're informed. And our intent is to head out once we're finished letting everybody know the process. We'll conduct some field testing. One of the main possible solutions, as I mentioned, is to simply put a pump in that existing well. That would be great if it turns out that works that way. But we will also look a little further afield for other well possibilities. In doing that, we would go through a testing program. Every time we're out and doing a testing program, we're talking to people who have wells within a mile or 2 miles of that testing well before anything gets tested. We go and talk to people. We might put a transducer in their well, like a little measuring device, and transparent information. So we're quite diligent in that respect because we know it helps everybody and it helps us for a cleaner process. That's the end of the presentation, Council, and I'm open to questions.
Thank you very much. Councillor, are there any questions for Mr. Toews? Go ahead, Councillor.
Question to you, Mr. Mayor. I noticed the stakeholders, you didn't have St. River Watershed District on there?
We should. We have spoken with St. River Watershed District. It's just an oversight, and we will speak with them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for adding that.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Toews, you said you're a planner and not a...
Hydrogeologist.
That's the word. On page 12, that beautiful picture with the yellow and the green lines. So if, and then also on page 13, so the wells that are currently in the fresh water, that's saline line, the yellow one or the green one. If we take a lot of water out of the fresh water, does that saline line move?
Yeah,
Does it move to the east then?
Yeah, so thank you for reiterating that I'm not a hydrogeologist, and I'll caveat my answer that I'm not. And I apologize, we don't have our whole team, but under the circumstances with the short time in COVID, you know, they sent me. But certainly we can return with more technical information on your question. That said, the scale of movement would be quite minor, so not that I'm saying for certain things don't move, but they do move, and they can move. But the magnitude of pumping required to move that line would be quite substantial. And I'll also reiterate that the line is not a line per se. It is a spectrum, right? It's clearly a continuum. And at some point we say, that's saline and that's potable. So the progression of that line, and that line may also move naturally without pumping for circumstances that we're not controlling under the ground. So it is something that does get monitored. I know freeze and drillers, if they were here, they would give you a much more technical, fuller answer. And I've heard them answer this before, which is why I can answer it, and that's generally what they say.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Anything further? Okay, well, Mr. Toews, thank you very much for coming out and updating us and sharing this with us. And you know, I've heard of this saline line before, and I do hear too, it's well, pardon the pun, but it's fluid. It does move a bit, right?
Yeah, you know, the water is moving. It's moving east to west, and if you pump a lot of fresh right by the line, you might move it over a bit.
Yeah.
Certainly, it's not coming to Steinbach in that respect.
No. Okay,
Okay, thank you very much.
thank you very much
For your time, and please reach out if there are further questions.
and all the best. Thank you.
Thank you
Yeah,
very
and
much.
if we do have any questions, we have your contact. We can
Yeah,
email you.
it's on the last slide, and
Yeah.
feel free to reach out.
Okay, thank you. Okay, council, we'll move on to 9C, the PSAB budget. Starts on page 56. We're looking for a motion to approve or to adopt the budget as was presented. Councillor Swagstra,
Make the motion we adopt.
Councillor Penner, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is something that we do every year where we have to take our information and translate it into the public sector accounting board-based budget. All municipalities have to do this. It makes it easier to compare. And so these are the numbers.
Thank you. Anything further, Councillor Penner?
Nope, nothing further.
Anything further, council? Anything in closing? Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Council, number 9D, we have building permits for May. May was a great month. We've had just over $10 million of value of permits were issued for May. And the commercial industrial, that was almost 6 million, just under $5.9 million. And the residential was $4.3 million, just a little over $4.3 million. We've added 23 single and two-family units for a grand total for the year. All family units is 86. Council, we're having a great year. There's just a couple of highlights here. Some of the highlights for commercial. We've got the $1.5 million for the internal renovations of Sobeys. 1.4 for a cold storage building on Commerce Drive. We've got numerous houses. We've got a warehouse on Industrial Road. And we've got also another highlight is 1.5 million, almost 1.6 for a warehouse on Hespeler Street. Council, we've just had a fantastic month. It's given our year to date at 30.4 million, just over 30.4 million for year to date, with industrial being 13.5 million and residential covering 16.9. Council, just what a great thing that's happening in our community. Our community is just booming. We're having such a great year in development this year, and just looking forward to many, many more things that are happening in our community. But just looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Penner? Second by Councillor Hebert. Anything further to add?
Yeah, what's also interesting is when you look at these numbers and what projects people are working on, there's so many upgrades to people's homes in terms of decks, pools, sheds, and I think we've all heard what's happening in the construction industry, so you can see why there's such a high demand for things like lumber when you see all these projects that are happening.
Just to reiterate to you, I wish someone would have talked to my wife and said, don't move, improve. Go ahead, Councillor. Okay. Anything further of council? Okay, council, call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. We got 9E. We have the business licenses, starts on page 62. Looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Siemens, second by Councillor Hebert. Go ahead, Councillor Siemens.
Nothing further, sir.
Anything further?
Nothing further either.
Anything further of council? Okay, call for the question. All those in favor? That's carried. 9F, we've got bylaw 2177. This is the OCP amendment. We're going to do first reading today. Mr. Workington, could you please introduce this file?
Mr. Mayor, this bylaw 2177 proposes an amendment to the city's official community plan to designate the front portion of a property located on Park Road West, which is just west of Clear Spring Mall, to commercial policy area, with the remainder of the property being designated as residential residential policy area. The applicant is proposing to develop a commercial residential development on the subject parcel, which is, I said, on Park Road West, and residential would be developed upon the remainder of the site. If council does give this bylaw first reading, a public hearing would be tentatively scheduled for July 20th council meeting for public hearing.
Okay, council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Penner?
Motion to approve first reading?
Okay. Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Hebert? Go ahead, Councillor Penner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As our building permits showed from last month, the city of Steinbach is booming, and as such, the OCP does need to be looked at to open up a future land for growth. So it would be interesting to bring this to a public hearing, hear from the developers and the interested parties, and see what decision is made from there.
Thank you.
Nothing further.
Anything further of council? Anything in closing?
Nothing further.
Okay, council, call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, council, we'll move on to 9G, bylaw 2178. This is rezoning. This is rezoning. Its first reading starts on page 73. Mr. Workington, could you please introduce this file?
This bylaw application under 2178 is a zoning bylaw amendment proposal, and it is to rezone the same subject property on Park Road West which is currently designated DR1, which is Development Reserve 1, to a variety of other uses, including residential single-family zone, residential low-density, residential medium-density, residential high-density, commercial corridor, and parks and recreation to allow this development to be able to proceed. Recommendation again to give this bylaw first reading, and a subsequent public hearing would then be scheduled.
Thank you, Mr. Fortin. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Swagstra?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll make the motion for first reading.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Hebert, go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As was noted, this is a significant potential development, 67 acres in total, and this is proposing to rezone from Development Reserve, which of course is a holding pattern of the land waiting for the development, to a variety of residential and commercial uses. Certainly looking forward to the public hearing to hear from the applicant and get more information about this. But it's always exciting to see the potential of new developments happening within our city.
Anything further, Councillor? Anything further, Council? Anything closing? Yes, Council, this is, it'll be very exciting to hear from the developer. This is quite an aggressive development, and I like to see the mixed use in here. There's lots of different uses, and I think that will be, it'll work very well in this area, given the fact that there's shopping close by, there's businesses close by, industrial close by. I think this is going to be a good fit for the area. Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Is there any questions of council? Okay, seeing none. Council will go to correspondence petitions. We've got the 2021 municipal operating grants, the first payment. It's on page 87. How would you like to proceed? Take this as information? Okay. Okay, council, there's no other business. Looking for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Seaman, second by Councillor Hebert. Any comments? Okay, call for the question. All those in favor? That's carried. Next regular council meeting, Tuesday, July 6th, 2021, 7:30. Thank you.
I